Hey everyone, welcome. This is Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and this is Life with Jason Clemmons of DC. It is Wednesday, March the 20th, and we're coming to you right here from the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios and on 98.7 Walk by Faith and 1420 AM Lubbock Christian Nation on the radio. So, welcome. Hope you guys had a great day. I hope everything went your way today. It was awesome at the Rock today. We've been at it since 7:30 this morning, and we're still going. So I'm glad to be here. Hope you guys had a good time, and I hope your day went well. And I hope you're healthy today. So last night we talked about some the gut-brain axis, and we talked about it from Dr. Charles Zucker. If you guys missed that show last night, well, I really think it's worth going back and taking a look at because there's a lot to it, and it's worth if you understand that right there, you can grasp a hold of your health. Like you can really start to make some really good, powerful changes with your health if you can understand that concept of the gut-brain barrier. So, and I think it's so important that I want to talk about it again tonight, but not so much. Now, I don't want to do a replay of last night's show, but I want to talk about it from the standpoint of really how impactful it is to your health and the ideas behind like what I mean when I say it's a powerful thing to understand. So we'll get into that in just a minute. Got a couple things. Just kind of want to talk about some little things. First of all, the supplement of the evening is Cyruta Plus. And for you guys that are new to the show, just been going through some of these standard process supplements that we sell here in the office and talk about them, so you'll have a little bit better understanding about them of what you might want to add to your list. And you can get standard process from me, or you can get standard process lots of places. So you can get it from standard process a lot of times, but standard process is the one I want to talk about tonight is the Cyruta Plus. And last night we went over the Catalin, and Catalin is the multivitamin, but a lot of you guys like to take vitamin C, and that's what this is all about. So if you're a vitamin C person, then Cyruta Plus is what you might want to look for. And so I'll read some of the stuff on Cyruta. Cyruta Plus supports capillary integrity and function, supports circulatory cholesterol transport, supports healthy cellular glucose handling to help maintain blood sugar levels already within a normal range, supports healthy peripheral circulation, contains several independent factors that help maintain the integrity of capillary walls. So, we had a show not too long ago talking about the capillary walls and exactly what happens and whenever those things get clogged up, when there's too much sugar in the blood, or there's too much inflammation in the body, or there's the too much sugar in the blood that allows the sugar to just freely move through like osmosis into those cells, right? And we're talking about to help maintain the integrity of the capillary wall. And so if your blood sugar stays high, then what will happen is the blood will diffuse across the cell membrane. It will of the small blood vessels that you have in your body. It will be stored as a form of sorbitol, in a form called sorbitol. It will attract water with it. And when it attracts water with it, those cells will swell up and they'll become hypersensitive. And you won't want to stand up because your feet will hurt because you'll be hypersensitive to the swelling that's going on, right? So that ends up being a problem for people because it gets them off their feet and it causes them not to move properly. And so one of the things that you can do to help maintain that is to take your supplements that are made for it, and Cyruta is. And what it is a proprietary blend of organic buckwheat juice powder, organic buckwheat flour, bovine adrenal cytosol extract, and oat flour. That's a combination of what it is right there. It has a little bit of honey, ascorbic acid, and calcium stearate that's in it as well. So they put a little ascorbic acid. Remember last night I talked about calling it vitamin C. You can't call it vitamin C if you don't have any vitamin C in there. And because the way the government works, you can't say that you can't sell apples as a supplement that has vitamin C in them, right? So when you're doing synergistic stuff, that's where Cyruta comes into play. So it's in my daily pill bottle every single day. Take some Cyruta, and recommend it if you're interested in it. So important for blood vessels, important for the way that your body handles cholesterol, and keeps you healthy as far as I know. We'll find out in the end, I guess. We'll find out we'll just take this thing all the way as far as we can take it, and then we'll find out whether or not it did any good. And I got some ideas that it is, and I've got some science that says that it's doing pretty good. So far, we'll go with it. So that's Cyruta, and that's the supplement for the night. Of course, you can always get it from us. You can get it at therock.standardprocess.com if you're interested in having some vitamin C for yourself. You can handle it either way. Either way, that's good. Another thing I wanted to talk about tonight that I don't think I've talked about it on the show, but this is a new component to our office, and it's called a cold laser, an Arconia EVRL laser, and it is a very focused laser. I'll see if I can. I don't know if I showed you guys this laser or not, but it is FDA clearance. Arconia's got all kinds of FDA clearances on there with their lasers. They've been doing lasers since I think 1995. They're kind of the world leader in lasers. A lot of you have started to see red light, right? You get the red light therapy, and the red light therapy that you buy in like in the stores or on Amazon or whatever like that. Yes, you get a little bit of therapeutic benefit to that, but the red light therapy is what the Arconia people use as the placebo in their trials that they get regulated through the FDA. So think about that for a second. That diffuse red light that is a totally different thing than a very focused laser light, and that's how they got that done. But so I could just start this thing, and I don't know if you guys can see that. So you can kind of see the red and the purple lights right there. And so I've got it on brain, and so I could just literally sit here and put that right over there, right over my frontal lobe, my right prefrontal cortex, and I could laser my right prefrontal cortex and charge up the mitochondria that's inside my brain. So the laser light, it doesn't create any heat. I don't ever feel it. But the one that we have is a combination of violet and red together. You may can see that on my hand. Yeah, you can see that. It's violet and red together, and the violet is at 405 nanometers, and the red is at 635 nanometers, and it penetrates and it basically stimulates mitochondria, and it creates ATP or energy inside the cells. It gives the cells some activation that allows them to create more ATP that can create healing and power, and it does it in a way that doesn't increase free radicals. So it's really a cool device. You just can't put it in your eyes, but you can pretty much put it anywhere else. And so the laser is a really cool thing. Put it on your cerebellum. You can put it on your cerebellum. So we'll just have it, during the day. We'll just have people together using it, and while they're in the gym doing rehab in the gym. Got lots of things for it. It's also been shown to be super helpful with pain. And there was an article right here that I was going to kind of show to you. This is a quadruple blinded clinical trial, meaning the patient, the caregiver, the assessment investigator, and the treatment investigator are all blinded, and the LED as a placebo. So there's a difference between a laser light and a diffuse light in the way that it works. And so the test is the effects of a single treatment with two non-thermal laser wavelengths on chronic neck pain and shoulder pain. And so non-thermal lasers provide a pain relief for a variety of musculoskeletal disorders and improve physical functioning. And this was medical devices, evidence, and research. A non-thermal laser that employs a 635 nanometer red diode is cleared for the temporary reduction of neck and shoulder pain of musculoskeletal origin. As a 405 nanometer violet laser has shown synergy with the 635 red laser when used together for treating other conditions. The objective of the study was to compare the efficacy of the 635 nanometer red and the 405 nanometer violet laser versus the 635 red laser for treating neck and shoulder and pain. So the results, among subjects treated with the red and violet laser, the mean testing scores of neck and shoulder pain decreased from 65.0 to 35.2. Conclusion: overall, treatment with the red and violet laser outperformed the FDA-approved red laser with respect to change in pain scores and improvement in shoulder range of motion. And I know that's a lot of information for you, and I know it's a lot of talk, but it's something that I've actually been studying for quite some time. I bought a practice back in 2006. My old partner and I bought a practice back in 2006, and it was from a doctor here in town that had been around for a long time. He actually had a stroke and couldn't practice any longer, and so we helped him out and kept his practice going, and then ended up buying his practice from him. But he had an Erconia laser back in 2006. And so I kind of got introduced to it. We didn't get taught lasers when I was in school, but like they do now. But so I missed all that. I missed all that fundamental education about it. So I used it in the office for a bit, kind of put it away in the drawer, didn't really understand what it was all about. And I've been really trying these last few years to study it and see if it's something that we want to introduce in our office to add to the product that we have so that we can help people with the way that they function. And that's basically what, after I've done all my research on it, that's what I've come up with is like, hey, you know what? This is a legitimate thing. It's a good idea. I think it's good for the people. And sometimes it's taken me almost 20 years to really buy into the idea of lasers. And it doesn't mean that the idea needed to come along. It just meant that sometimes I'm not real super fast on pulling the trigger on some of that stuff. But we got it. We got it now. And we're getting ready to do neurofeedback in the office with the brain mapping. The QEEG that we're about to kick off here in about 2 weeks is something that I think you guys are really going to appreciate. You're going to enjoy that. And I've had lots of people already talk about, hey, I want to get my brain mapped. And it's going to give us some information about how your brain's acting, what's going on with it, and then it's going to actually help us do some treatment on it. So that's what we're going to do with the laser, is we're going to add the laser component in the middle of the treatment. So while you're getting treated, we're also going to laser your frontal lobe. We're also going to laser your cerebellum. We're also going to laser those areas. We can use it on shoulders. We can use it on low back. We can use it on neck. We can use it on ankles. I used to use it on ankles a lot. The treatment that I think is super important is to use it on the brain. And so I'm super excited about it. Really, I can't wait to get started with this neurofeedback stuff. It's going to be great to be able to do that. So we got the laser. We got the laser in the office. You guys need some cold laser. If you've ever heard about cold laser, you want to know the difference between the cold laser and just red light therapy and what it does in the studies. These guys from Erconia are unbelievable in the amount of research they do. And when you get an FDA clearance on something, that's not an easy thing to do. It takes a lot of money to do that. It takes a lot of research to do that. It takes a lot of time and knowledge and knowing what you're doing. And these guys have invested in it. And I think it's going to be something that is going to be helpful here in the office. So that's what I wanted to talk about on the lasers. I wanted to remind you about another thing that we have here in the office, and that is the pupillary light reflex. So the Reflex Pro is what it's called. And the reason I wanted to remind you, I know I've talked about it in the past, but let me see if I can get it to where it's cleared out and we don't have people's names on it. I'll just search it for myself. There. Okay. Yeah. So the pupillary light reflex gives us some feedback when we're trying to analyze what's going on in the brain, and that's my particular one right there. So what we do with this iPad is we just hold the iPad up to your pupil, and we take a 5-second video of your pupil, and then it analyzes for us like how your pupil responded to light and what's going on inside your brain, and it gives us a bunch of scores. It gives us a concussion score. That's why I wanted to bring it back up tonight. I had one of my super athletes. She was running track yesterday, and she got caught up, and she's a hurdler, and she tripped and hit the hurdle on her forehead, and then she skinned her knees all up, and she had a crash yesterday, and so she just came in and got adjusted, and she mentioned to me that she had gone last night to the urgent care, and they told her she didn't have a concussion. And I was like, well, let's just see for what the Reflex app says, and let's test it right quick just to make sure that you don't have a concussion. And so we did, and sure enough, she did not have a concussion from what she had done last night. And it was objective measures, right? Because I asked her, well, how did they determine last night that you didn't have a concussion? And she said that they just basically just did an exam on her, and then they talked to her and said, watch it, make sure that you're not sleepy or having a headache or any of that stuff, and then just kind of take care of that knot that you have on your head. And so but the cool thing about having it is that it's objective, and we can use it, and it's actually it's a paid for by insurance. We don't do a lot of insurance in the office, but it's paid for by insurance. Like, it's legitimate enough to be at that level to where a pupillary light reflex response measurement is a legitimate thing. And I've got a super complicated article that goes along, that was written by Dr. Carrick, one of the maybe the smartest, if not one of the smartest neurology people on the planet, and has done a ton of stuff for the chiropractic profession and for patients all over the world. And it's a man, just to read through what happens in the brain, and there's a good little diagram here on the third page, and it's like all of the things, all these little circles that you see, these are all different nucleuses, like the retina, and it hits one area and it hits another area, and one of them is parasympathetic, which is rest and recover, which will cause constriction of the pupil, and one of them is sympathetic, which will cause dilation of the pupil. And this whole thing is going on inside your brain whenever someone shines a light in your eye and sees if your pupil constricts or doesn't. Does it have the ability to hold for 5 seconds? Does it release early? What's going on? And there's a lot to it. Like, it's not the old, just, you've seen it growing up your whole life. You've just seen someone just kind of shine a light in somebody's eye, and then it's just like, oh yeah, doc shined a light in my eye. He was just checking me out right there, right? Yeah. Well, when he did that, what he was doing was it was a pretty complicated thing that he was doing. So Um, we have the technology in the office. If you think you've got a concussion, if you've got a kid that's in a contact sport of any kind, and who knew track was a contact sport, right? But if you got a kid that's in a sport and you want to get a baseline for your child and you want to bring them in and let us test them, we can do the right eye test on them and the reflex test on them before they start their competition, and we can have a baseline. So then when they get a little banged up or whatever, and you wonder, hey, did they get a concussion? We've got their baseline score, and we can come in and we can get them checked. It doesn't take 5 minutes to get them in here and get them scanned, and we can get them scanned, and you can find out. So if that's something that you're interested in, if you've got somebody, if you've got a child or a grandchild that you think might benefit from that, and before their season starts, if you've got a baseball player that's playing right now, or you got a football player that's going to start in the fall, or a soccer player, the soccer is I think is worse than the football sometimes, with the amount of with the headers that they do and what goes on with concussions inside the brain with that. So that is if you got somebody you want to have taken care of and you want to send them to the office, then I'd be glad to get them checked out for you. So those are just kind of some of the housekeeping things that I wanted to talk about before we got deep into some of this other stuff. And so I thought I'd clear that. One more thing. Don't forget, I just want to remind you, right? I want to remind you that we have the foot levelers specials going on for this month. If you want to get a custom pair of orthotics, you want us to scan the bottom of your feet, build an orthotic that's specific for you, we could do that. The special that they're running is going through the end of the month. You can get one pair for $199 or two pair for $299, and that's something that you might take advantage of if you're interested in that, to get some good insoles in your shoes. Okay, that's a lot of stuff we covered right there. That's housekeeping stuff. But let's go back and let's see about what we learned last night, and see if we can take some of that information and apply it to ourselves, and what difference does it make on the way that we live our lives. And I've got a study of one. I've got what did Dr. Zucker say on that? He said something on that video that I was watching, it was something to the effect of the study of one. It's not exactly the term that he used. I can't think of the word right now, but I've taken all this information. I've taken the stuff from Dr. Peterson. I've taken the stuff out of the Master and His Emissary book, which I'm still breaking down both of those books. I've learned a little bit of the stuff about the brain. I've learned a little bit of stuff about the gut microbiome. If you want to know stuff about the gut microbiome, one of the cool people that knows a bunch about that is Dr. Hyman. You guys can find Mark Hyman. You can find him on Instagram, YouTube, whatever. Functional medicine guy out of Massachusetts. You know, I've talked about him before. Dr. Hyman will help you out with learning about the gut microbiome and what's going on inside there. And I want to present the idea tonight about what difference does it make? It's we can learn all this stuff, but if we don't really understand what difference it makes, then it's just kind of just a big old pile of stuff, really, right? Like it doesn't even mean anything if you don't break it down, and someone doesn't break it down for you to try to explain it to you about what's happening. So just take the microbiome for a second, and let's just talk about. I'm not going to draw like the entire intestines, but let's just talk about intestines, right? And you've got bacteria that are in your intestines, and your intestines have what's called an enteric nervous system. Meaning, if you took some of your intestine out, you cut it out and you put it in a petri dish and you kept it moist and you kept it get it with nutrients, it would continue to work Uh, and I don't. It would continue to work if it was in a petri dish. Now it's not going to work by itself, but it's not. It doesn't do any good if it's in a petri dish, right? So you got to have a reporting system, and that reporting system that your brain is getting, and that's something that I mentioned last night that I want to say one more time tonight, is that your vagus nerve reports to your brain at 80 to 90%. It's 80 to 90%. If I can draw properly, it's 80 to 90% afferent. The fibers that run through the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the nerve that innervates. It's one of your cranial nerves. It comes off your brain stem. It's one of the nerves that innervates your entire, all your organ systems, all the way down to, I think it's two-thirds of your, hang on, I'm all cut up here. Of your colon. I think it goes all the way down to the bottom right there. So there's a lot of information, and we're about to have to take a break right now. So let's take that break on the radio. We'll come back right after this break. You guys stick with us. This is Jason Clemmons and Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. And I'm going to look that up right quick, just to make sure I spelled that right. Yeah. And here's an article just right off the top. While we're on the break, we'll just talk about this article right here. It just comes right off the top of NIH. The enteric nervous system and its emerging role as a therapeutic target. The gastrointestinal tract is innervated by the enteric nervous system, an extensive neuronal network that traverses along its walls. Due to local reflex circuits, the enteric nervous system is capable of functioning with and without input from the central nervous system. That's exactly what I said, right? You can cut it out, you can put it in a petri dish in a lab, and it'll just work on its own. The function of the enteric nervous system range from the propulsion of food to nutrient handling, blood flow regulation, and immunological defense. So that's just all I did was just try to check and make sure I got the spelling right, making sure it was an E and not an I. But it's part of the nervous system. But the thing that really struck me when I was listening to Dr. Zucker and Dr. Huberman was the idea of it being 80 to 90% afferent. Because if you just think about that, what that actually means, the fibers are running from the intestine to the brain. And why would it do that? It does that because the brain's the boss. It doesn't report, the gut doesn't report necessarily to any other area. I mean, there's connections with the gut and in the whole body. I'm not saying that, but your vagus nerve is running to your brain. Let me get us back on. Okay, everybody, we're back. This is Jason Clemmons. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. We're talking about the gut-brain axis again tonight, and from a practical standpoint, what difference does it make and how you can really get a hold of the power of this knowledge. And I'll probably say it as many times as I can say it until I get it right, to try to explain to you what I think is so important about this concept when it relates to your health. To me, it is a serious, it's a really big deal. So the vagus nerve fires at 80 to 90% afferent, meaning it's going in the direction from the gut into the brain. And that means that it's got 10 to 20% efferent, which means it's going from the brain back down to the gut. So if I was, let's say for a second I was God, right? And I was going to build a human being, and I wanted to know what was going on in my gut, and I wanted my brain to know what was going on in my gut. And then there was just a little bit, it was minor modulation that I needed my brain to do back to back down to the gut. It would make sense, right? It would make total sense that we're going to use a nerve and we're going to put 80 to 90% of that nerve going to the brain. And remember, your brain receives 3 trillion bits of information per second. Oops. 3 trillion bits of information per second is what your brain is receiving from your body. So your brain is processing a lot of data. Well, just think about how much data is coming through that vagus nerve. It's coming from your heart. It's coming from all your organs. Your heart is reporting to your brain what is going on. I had a lady today that's lost over 95 pounds by eating a ketogenic diet and walking. And she's been walking. She made it a goal to walk at least 10,000 steps. And she's making sure that she's walking between, she was getting up like 3 or 4 miles last year. And then the winter hit and all that stuff. It's cut her down to about 2 miles. She showed me um, her walking stuff, but she was doing all those steps, and then she was feeding herself properly, and she lost 95 pounds. And she's lost 95 pounds in a way that it's going to stay off forever, right? If she has the capacity, she didn't take a shot and lose 95 pounds and jack up her whole system and jack up her gut brain axis and all that stuff. She didn't do that. She did it the natural way. She did it the proper way, and she lost all that weight. But what I was trying to explain to her is what Dr. Zucker said last night on the podcast, that, and that's that little the segment that I played for you, when he said, I really believe all these diseases that we know of, that like diabetes and obesity and all this stuff, I really believe that they are actually diseases of the brain. They're abnormal circuits of the brain, and that's why all this stuff downstream is taking place. Because you can think, if the vagus nerve is reporting 80 to 90% of the information, if it's coming into the brain, so what's happening is that gut is reporting to the brain what's going on in the gut. And one of the things that we mentioned last night was that there's glucose receptors in the gut that specifically detect whether or not there's any glucose that's been ingested. And that was a huge thing, because now when it reports back, it's going to report back and it's going to release neurotransmitters in the brain. And that goes back to that left side dopamine. So my craving for sugar, in this research of one that I have experienced over the last 2 years, and my ability to break that craving, like it is the regulation of this gut-brain axis. It's the regulation of what's going on in the brain. And the reason that I think it's so important, that and I just talk about it all the time, is because it is information that if you're listening to this show, whether you're listening to it on the radio or you're listening to it in social media, you're getting information right here that can separate you from all the other people. You can actually take control of your life now if you understand this from a nutrition standpoint. You will be, I can warn you, you'll be strange. You'll be a person that's you'll be weird to your family, because they won't have a flipping clue what you're talking about. You'll be weird to your friends. Your friends won't understand what you're talking about. You'll be trying to explain it to them. It's like, yeah, it's all about the dopamine and it's in the left hemisphere, and I got to make sure that I get my steps in, right? I got to get my steps in properly, because think about what that lady did with her steps and eating her ketogenic diet. By getting her steps in, what she did, and she doesn't even know it, is that she fired the right hemisphere of the brain The right hemisphere of the brain fired over into the left hemisphere of the brain. The left hemisphere released the dopamine in the proper amounts. Now she feels happy and she feels motivated and she feels, you got serotonin and all the rest of that stuff that's going on, but she feels like she's on the right track with life. She feels motivated to keep going. She is being able to drive the things that's going on. But she also doesn't have to go look for glucose anymore. She doesn't have those cravings of going to look for glucose. She doesn't have those cravings of whatever your glucose form is. One of my ladies today told me, Doc, it's not candy, it's not ice cream, it's fruit. I crave fruit. I constantly crave fruit. And so, and I'm like, yeah, well, some people crave alcohol. Some people crave sweets. Some people crave chocolate. Some people crave Cokes. You're craving all those things. But remember, why are you doing that? Right? You're doing that because you're trying to satisfy your brain. Why does the vagus nerve, why do the intestines report to the brain? Because the brain wants to know what's going on down there in the intestine. Why does this glucose receptor report back to the brain that, hey, we have glucose now? Why does it do that? Because the brain has sent us with our feet and our eyeballs to go search for sugar, to go search for something sweet, because the brain wants glucose. So the brain is going to search for it because it makes the brain happy and it gives us the proper neurotransmitters inside our brain to make our brain happy. And if our brain's not happy, our brain will make our body move towards whatever it is that's going to make us happy. Like, I can't quit drinking my Dr. Peppers. I can't quit. What does that mean? I can't quit drinking my Dr. Peppers. Well, I'm just stuck on it. I'm addicted to the Dr. Peppers. What is addicted? Your stomach is your intestines are addicted. Your glucose and your glucose molecules detectors are, nope. It's not. That's not what's addicted. What's addicted is the lack. It's the substance that gives us the dopamine, that gives us the neurotransmitters in our brain. It's the substance that makes our brain feel happy. So when you know what it's like, we all know what it's like to be stuck in this jail of being addicted to sweets. We know what it's like. And in the deal yesterday, Dr. Zucker says, this is the first time in human history where malnutrition is related to overnutrition. From the beginning of human history, malnutrition was related to undernutrition. When you see those pictures of those poor starving kids in Africa and all that sort of thing, and their bellies are distended and they're all skin and bones, right? You see people that have come out of a concentration camp that are just skin and bones. You see somebody that's got anorexia that won't eat. What are they? They're just skin and bones, right? They're suffering from malnutrition, which is a result of undernutrition. But now all of a sudden, we are suffering, his words on the video, we're suffering from malnutrition because of overnutrition. We've got too much of the stuff that we need. And so why do we get too much of the stuff that we need? What is it? What is it about the addiction that we're going to get? Why do you move your feet towards a Dr. Pepper? Why do you move your feet towards a bowl of ice cream? Why do you move your feet towards, I need more bread? What is the thing? Because that's how we work, right? We work when our bodies are not firing properly. We're going to go, our brain wants to be happier. My brain wants to be happier, so I need to go get me something sweet. I'm going to say that again. When my brain wants to be happier, it makes me go get something sweet. Well, what if your brain was happy? What if your brain was happy constantly all the time and it didn't rely on those sweet things anymore? And I know there's like 7 of you guys out there on the planet somewhere, and that you don't have any of those cravings, right? Good for you. You're probably bored to death with this show anyway, and this is not something that you would want to listen to. But for the rest of us that's lived our entire lives being addicted to sweet things, the rest of us, it might make sense. So our brain is what moves us towards the sweet. Our brain is what makes us go get the sugar. Our brain is what says, hey, Leslie, if you're at the store, she's at the store, and I know she's at the store, so I think I'll just send her a text and say, hey, you could get some chocolate if you wanted to. That was the way I did it. You guys probably did it smoother than that, but that's the way I did it. I'd send her a text and say, hey, you get some chocolate if you want to. And of course, that would put her into a stress response, because once I eat the chocolate and I'm all fussy again, and I'm like, hey, look, don't buy any more chocolate at the grocery store. I can't be the only one. And I'm sharing life with you, right? I'm transparent as I can be. I'm sharing life with you. I can't be the only one that's done that. I can't be the only one that texts their wife at the grocery store and say, hey, you can bring home some chocolate, and then get mad at her when she brings home the chocolate, right? There's a sign of a mental brain damage right there. Well, guess what? I haven't done that now in 2 years. I haven't done that in 2 years and a couple of weeks. Have not sent her a text and said, hey, you could bring home some chocolate. Don't need to anymore. But what caused me to send the text? What was the motivating factor behind me grabbing my phone and sending that text to her? It was the fact that my brain wasn't happy. That's why I did it. So, how's your brain doing? Like, how are you doing with your diet? And would you like to make your diet better? Right? Is it important for you to do that? Do you have any desire to be better at all? Do you have any desire to make your life better? Do you have any desire to be a better spouse or a better parent or a better child or whatever? Do you have a better employee, a better boss, a better leader in our community, a better superintendent in our schools? Right? What would it be? Who are you out there that's listening to the show that would say to yourself, yes, I really do want to make my life better, right? And I want to make sure that my brain is happy all the time too. My brain is not craving these sweets anymore. And so, what are the things that I could do? And this is just the gut, right? We're just talking about the gut brain axis, and then the way that our gut is feeding back to our brain to tell us what's going on. That's the other thing about the microbiome, and you can learn this from Dr. Hyman, is that the microbiome, like, do you get it now? Like, why I quit eating sugar? Because I realized that my microbiome can hijack my vagus nerve, because now it can use the highway to the brain. The microbiome can start to send signals to the brain to tell the brain, hey, dude, give us more sugar. It can tell us, nope, there's absolutely none down here. I ate it all up. And I think that probably is how it works. Those little crackhead bacteria that get in our gut, when we overfeed them, we feed them all the time, and now they get to be like boss men in our gut. Those little crackhead bacteria, that they'll take over, and they'll hijack this little glucose sensor, and they'll say, hey, nope, you can't say anymore. Because I think what happens is the bacteria eat up all of the sugar, and so the sugar doesn't get to the glucose sensor, so the sugar doesn't feed to the brain. That's my own hypothesis on that. I don't know exactly that. I didn't hear Dr. Zucker say that. But I think that's kind of what happens when the microbiome gets out of whack. So now there's nothing going. So the glucose, you ate it, you tasted it on your tongue. You tasted the sugar. Your brain says, all right, we got some sugar, we got some glucose going to our gut. But then it got to the gut, and it's like, hey, where did the signal go? The brain's waiting. The brain's waiting on the intestine to report back and tell it, did you guys get that down there? Because I ate it. I remember tasting it just a few minutes ago. And have you broken it down? Has it gotten through the stomach, or is it in the intestine and the glucose receptors is reporting back to the brain? I don't have any of it. So what does your brain say? Man, dadgummit, let's eat some more of that stuff. We better eat some more of it. And so we can get this whole out of balance problem. We can get our microbiome out of balance because we have good bacteria and we have bad bacteria. And how do the bad bacteria grow? You feed them. And what do you feed them? You feed them refined carbohydrates. So when you feed them refined carbohydrates, then the bad bacteria start to grow. Then now you interrupt this whole thing. Now this whole vagus nerve firing back to the brain is going to tell the brain, nope, no sugar down here. The brain's not happy. The brain's like, dude, I could have sworn I ate a Snickers bar just a second ago. And then, or you get those bags of Snickers bars or the bags of Reese's Cups or whatever, a bowl of ice cream. Like you eat that bowl of ice cream and it's not satisfying at all. It's like, I better get me another bowl of ice cream. And then I get another bowl of ice cream and then it's not. And then what you'll do if and don't tell me that you're not one of these people too, or all the chubby people understand what I'm talking about. If you're chubby, what you'll do is you'll have this regulator on your brain of how many bowls of ice cream you eat in front of other people. Right? If you're by yourself, that's a different amount than if you're with other people, especially if you're in a social gathering, right? If you're with other people, you're like, I probably should just have I'll go back for seconds once, but I don't want them to think that I eat this way all the time. Right? Think of the mental stress that goes along with that. How you can end up, I can't be the only person on the planet that's done that. You're with your in-laws, right? Or you're at a birthday party. Someone says, hey, would you like a piece of cake and some ice cream? Like you're talking to a crackhead right now. Are you serious? Would I like a piece of cake and some ice cream? I would absolutely like I would like that whole entire cake and that whole deal of ice cream. And if you guys weren't here, I'd probably eat half that cake by myself and I'd probably down that whole half gallon of ice cream by myself. Right? Okay, you skinny people are just thinking, man, that guy's crazy. And the rest of you guys are like, I know what he's talking about. I do that same thing. When I'm at home, I'll eat 4 or 5 bowls of cereal. How many times you done that where your cereal keeps going? Your milk, you got more milk than you got cereal, so you add some more cereal to your bowl, and then you run out of milk, and so you got to add some more milk to your bowl, and then by the time you're finished with that imbalance of a problem, you've eaten an entire box of Lucky Charms, and your brain didn't stop you at all. There was no stopping. We would go get the Reese's peanut butter cups in the family size of them, and we would make 36 peanut butter cookies. So you take the peanut butter, the slice and bake peanut butter that you get, and you put that in the little muffin pan, and while that's cooking, you got to take all the Reese's cups apart, take all the wrapping off the Reese's cups, and you got to line them up in a row so that you know that there's 36 in there because that's how many things you got in your pan. And then as soon as they come out of the oven, you got to take them and you got to stuff them down into those cookies, right? But there's always more than that in the bag. There's always 15 or 20 more that are in the bag. So I would eat the 15 or 20 more while the cookies were cooking. I'd take the leftover from the bag and I'd just eat those things like it was going out of style. As fast as I could get them unwrapped, put them in my mouth, and put them in my mouth, and put them in my mouth. Are you one of those people that do that same thing? And then what happens to your weight? Your weight just keeps going up, and it just keeps going up. You got to go buy a new pair of pants. Your jeans are too tight now, And now that's embarrassing that you're going, well, I used to wear 32s and then I went to 34s and then I went to 36s and then I went to 38s and then I went to 40s and then I'm just about to 42. And it's like, man. And I told myself when I was at 38, I wasn't ever buying another pair of jeans that was that big. And then I just kept on going and I just kept on going and I just kept on going. Why did I do that? Why? What was it that was going on inside my brain that was causing me to do that? What was going on inside my brain that was causing me to do that is this right here. The microbiome was disrupted. The brain is not happy. The brain is not getting what it wants. The brain tells you to eat more. The brain is not satisfied. How many days in a row can you eat dessert? Every day? If I had something to eat for dessert every single day, I'd eat it. Well, Leslie and I, we were driving past the donut store on Tuesday, and we saw somebody in the drive-thru, and I said to her, I said, remember when we used to eat donuts? You remember when that was a thing in our life that we used to eat donuts? And she was like, yep. And she was like, man, how dumb was that? I'm like, yep. That was like, I thousands of donuts I've had in my lifetime without thinking about it, without even understanding it. And when we pulled away from there and went wherever we were going, I just remember thinking to myself, those donuts were so delicious that because my mother-in-law and father-in-law owned that cake shop, Mama Tucker's Donuts in Roswell, New Mexico for 20-something years. That's what they were doing when Leslie and I first started dating. They owned the donut store. And they did that the whole time. And those donuts were so delicious right up until my father-in-law died from diabetes. Right up until that time where it crushed my wife's soul to lose her daddy from diabetes. That was a disease that was caused from the disruption of the gut-brain axis. That was caused from the disruption of the microbiome. That he lost his life at 68 or 69 years old, like just barely turned 69, that he lost his life. And he lost his life to a disease that was 100% self-inflicted and 100% avoidable in the form of diabetes. When I talk about how powerful it is to be able to be in control of my food for the first time in my life, there's some underlying motivation behind that I'm talking about. Like your kids are going to miss you when you die from diabetes. Your friends are going to miss you when you die from diabetes. Your son-in-law is going to miss you when you die from diabetes because you weren't able to take control of your life. You weren't able to grab a hold of it because your brain was freaking out because it wasn't happy and it had to have a donut. It had to have another donut. And I didn't even think about why I was eating a donut. I just ate another donut, right? That's what I mean when I say, if you can grasp this concept to understand that there are ways like going for a walk, like getting your eyes up and moving them back and forth, like making sure that your cervical curve is proper, that taking your supplements, take your vitamin C and your fish oil and those things, do the things that give your brain a chance. If you just could do the things that give your brain a chance, you can break free from this chain that's got you down. You can break free from your alcohol. You can break free from your Dr. Pepper. You can break free from those deadly things that are destroying your life if you just understand how your body works. And that's what the show is about. Hey, we're out of time. I hope maybe that touched somebody out there. I really appreciate you guys listening to the show. Tomorrow night and Friday night, I've got to do some continuing education stuff and some chiropractic association stuff. So we're going to repeat some shows from last Thursday tomorrow night, and then we're going to repeat last night's show on Friday night. So I'll be back here live on Monday. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. I won't see you then. Until then, I'll see you on Monday night. You guys have a great night. Call me if you need me.